Welcome everyone to Healthy for Life. It is monthly session number 5, if you can believe that, second to last monthly session that we have together. So I'm glad that you are all here. We continue to have some more people roll in. So I'm happy to see all of you here. And I'm going to go ahead and get the presentation started. We've got a good topic today. I think you're going to like it. So we have a presentation about plateaus today. And as it says on the screen, plateaus, don't panic. And I don't know if any of you get the reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but that's the reference for don't panic. So if you haven't read that book, you have to read that book if you don't truly appreciate the don't panic. That's the #1 most important rule with interstellar travel, is don't panic. Also the #1 most important rule when it comes to weight management, meeting your health goals, right? Yeah. So, and I don't know if you all want to share this or not, but are any of you, is this a place where any of you are at right now with the plateaus? And by plateau, what I mean is you've come to a place where maybe the weight loss or your progress towards your goals has slowed down. And I'll let you, yeah, okay. It's pretty common at this point in the weight loss journey, if not even a little bit sooner. Seems like it happens to a lot of people right around 6 months into their weight loss journey, or whatever, as they start with whatever new lifestyle program that they have. So that's why it's at this point in the program that we talk about it. So if you haven't already, I do like to give you the time every time to record your weight. It's still important to take your weight unless you have reason to not do that. Some of you do. But it's important benchmark to measure yourself against to see if what you're doing is working or not. So take the time to put that on your weight chart and check out your food and fitness log, what you've been tracking. And just make a note on there if you feel like a note is necessary. And of course, if you all have comments or questions as we go along, I definitely encourage those. So feel free to pop those into. All right, so I kind of already explained what is a plateau, and obviously there's a land mass or a something we see in our environment that's called a plateau, which I have a picture of there. But what we're talking about is a plateau that happens as you're making a journey or as you're working towards something. So literally, when you look it up in the dictionary, a plateau is to reach a state of little or no change after a time of activity or progress. So it's always important to set kind of that understanding, that common understanding. So when I'm talking about plateaus, that's what I'm talking about, is when you come to a place, and it's not if, it's when, during a weight loss journey, that you have little to no change after a time of change and progress. That's what's called a plateau. It's very normal. It's to be expected. So if you're there, just know that that is a common place to be. Some people in slang terms call it getting to the weight loss wall. It's almost like, if you're familiar with that, with like athletic kind of endeavors, when you hit the wall, it's like you just are making progress, you're doing really well, and it's like all of a sudden you just stop. It's super common to be very frustrating. It's the most common frustration with weight loss, when progress halts, despite the fact that you are still diligently following your plan. Those are predictable. Such plateaus are predictable and they're explainable. And I'm going to give you some ideas for how to overcome them today. So this is just a funny cartoon. Don't take it too seriously, okay? But it says, fed up with how her diet is going, Charlene decides to take a more serious aim at her target weight. Which is entirely intended just to be funny and to hopefully lighten your mood a little bit. But really, how do you get moving again? It all starts, ends, and circles back to what's happening in your head, right? What is your mental thought process? What is it that's important to you? What is it that you're focused on? Are you feeling stressed about it? All of that kind of stuff. It starts, ends, and circles back to what's happening in your head. So try these ideas on for size, and chances are you're not going to want to do all of these, but if you are truly on a plateau and you're dealing with that frustration of I'm doing all this work and I'm not seeing any result from it, to try one or more of these things in order to get yourself going again, to get yourself off the plateau. Using the same approach that worked initially will maintain your weight loss, which is good because we have super body, right? And super body can adapt and it likes to adapt. But doing what you have been doing to this point, if you are at a plateau, is not going to lead to more weight loss. You have to change something. So, ideas to do that: reassess your habits. You could try measuring your waist or your thighs or your arms or whatever it is, the place where you notice your weight change, as well as your weight. Because some people will notice, especially if you're being physically active, that your shape will change, even if your weight doesn't change. So maybe that's something that you could add in to encourage yourself. You might want to redo. Do you remember when we did your basal metabolic rate way back at the beginning? Do you remember that? If you go back to that presentation at the beginning, when we figured out, that's when we figured out about how many calories you need in a day. So if you go back to that same presentation, it's always a good idea, especially if you have lost weight, to redo that calculation with your new weight, because chances are that your body's calorie needs and energy needs have changed. You can try changing your workout, and I'm going to give you some ideas for that as we go through the presentation. Find more ways to be active, because you remember when we talked about activity, that 70% of your calorie burn that comes from activity is those activities of daily living. That's what I call them, activities of daily living. So it's walking to the bathroom, it's doing the laundry, it's going out to the car after work, it's all of those kind of incidental activity. So 30% is from your focused workout and 70% is from activities of daily living. So find more ways to be active during the day. And we went through some of those ideas in the physical activity presentation. So if that one's resonating with you, maybe go back to that presentation and review some of those ideas to see if there's some good ones in there. Just like I said in the slide previously, it starts, ends, and circles back to your mental self-talk, what's happening. So your perspective really is your reality. And it really makes a huge impact on if you're able to lose weight and if you're able to maintain the weight that you have lost. So concentrate on building your mental strength, your brain power. Positive self-talk is the number one best way to do this. You need to appreciate and celebrate yourself for what you are doing. Here are some things that I have heard from people in the course of my health coaching as I've gone along through time that have resonated with me and have resonated with them. So I want to share with you. So things like saying to yourself, to remind yourself to stay the course, to trust the process, that it's one step at a time. And sometimes you need to take a step back and look at the big picture, but sometimes that's overwhelming and you need to Step in and just focus on what's the next step. What is the next thing that I can do to move myself forward? What is the thing I can do right now in this moment to achieve my goals? Just that one simple thing right now in this moment. What can I do? Instead of worrying through it and not doing anything and stressing yourself out, stop, take a step in. What is this one thing that I can do right now to move myself closer to my goal? One step at a time. I'm healthier now. Remind yourself, I'm healthier now than I was before. Like when we talked about healthy at every size, those changes to your internal processes and the way that your body works and the way that your mind is working through things and thinking through things, those changes are maybe not always in your head, but always in reality. Those changes are just as important as changes in your actual weight. So remind yourself that you're healthier now than you were before. Remind yourself that a zero trend is a good trend. And I know I've brought this up before, where it's frustrating when you're doing all this work and you're not losing weight, right? I get that. And it's hard to appreciate the fact that if you hadn't been doing all that work, then maybe you would have been gaining weight or going the other direction, or maybe you would be moving closer to some sort of chronic condition or not having as good of control over it. Those things are harder to see and appreciate because they're not really tangible. But they're really important for you to remind yourself of, especially if your thoughts are not productive and they're not positive. That's a good thing to really just deliberately switch your focus to that. A zero trend is a good trend. Some of the best things in life come only with hard work. I would say probably all things that are good in life come with hard work. It's really something that you appreciate more if you have to work hard for it. Give up is not in my vocabulary. I don't even think it, right? You remember, and you can see with how many people are on the call. And I'm not saying if somebody's not on the call that they're not succeeding in meeting their health goals. That's not what I mean at all. But just generally speaking, as you go through time, that give up thought kind of likes to worm its way in and say, oh, why should I do all this work? Why should I do all this? I'm not seeing any benefit from it, and it's hard, and it's the holidays and all of that stuff. Just remind yourself when you catch yourself with those kind of thoughts that give up is not in your vocabulary. And then just simplify things. What is the thing I can do right now to move myself closer to my goal? Remind yourself that you're not there where you want to be yet, but this is good enough for now, right? It's all about finding that healthy balance between appreciating where you are now and who you are as a person, but also wanting to improve that person, whether it's weight or whether it's the quality of your thought, whether it's your control of chronic disease, whether it's how you operate in society, how you get along with the people around you, whatever it is. It's good to have the balance between appreciating where you are, because appreciation, motivation, that's where you get that from, but also wanting to do better, right? So finding that balance is super important. It's $1 million question, and it's different for every person. But hopefully there's something in there that you can just remind yourself, maybe even write it down on a Post-it note or put it in your phone to reminder as a reminder every day. It'll just pop up at noon every day. Trust the process, right? Just to, have that positive influence and retrain your brain towards that positive talk. Because if you think you can do it, your perspective is your reality. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Was it Abraham Lincoln that said that? I can't remember. Somebody famous did. So here's something else for you to think about when it comes to your personality tendencies, especially in regards to weight loss or to making healthy changes. Is there one of these 4 things that resonate with you and you're like, oh yeah, I'm that person? It might be a couple of the things, and that's okay. It's not a right answer, wrong answer kind of thing, but it does make a difference in how you might tackle plateaus. So know yourself, know your tendencies, and then make an educated guess as to what is gonna get you off the plateau or moving again. So are you impulsive? If you have a tendency to be impulsive, you might see a pint of Ben and Jerry's in the freezer and go for it, right? Without even thinking about it, just like unconsciously. Reestablish, here's some ideas for impulsive people. Reestablish your safe haven. Remove those temptations, right? No landmines in your own home. Pre-plan your eating to help remove the opportunity for snap decisions. So those are a couple ideas if you kind of have an impulsive personality, like just, oh, I'm just doing it in the moment, right? Very environmentally cueable. Oblivious. If you tend not to pay attention when you eat, maybe you're a TV snacker. Extra calories can creep back in very easily. You need to avoid such situations if you want to control portions and keep up with the journal, right? So try and not eat mindlessly. Try and engage with some mindful eating. If you're an oblivious kind of, if you tend to be oblivious to what it is that you're doing, mindful eating, not multitasking, is a great thing to do. And keep on writing things down because that can really focus your mind on what you're actually doing. Are you uptight? Emotional eaters, this is you, right? Anxiety, nervousness, boredom, depression, whatever it is, however you want to label it. Does it trigger you? Does it make you go, oh gosh, I need something to eat? Right? Sometimes you can be a little oblivious and uptight at the same time because you don't realize that when you get anxious, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need a snack. Something sounds good, right? When you're cued by how you're feeling, you might have some of that stuff going on. So your first step might be refocusing on why you are eating and really paying attention to hunger cues. So when you say, gosh, I need a snack, train yourself to have the next thought be, am I actually hungry? Right? And then think through that. And sometimes that can be pretty uncomfortable, honestly, especially if it's from anxiety or depression or nervousness or something like that. But pay attention to those hunger cues. And then the next step, if it's not hunger, is to address the true issue. And that's where it can get hard. But it's also, and your experience has probably shown you, if you're an uptight kind of personality, your experience has shown you that the eating doesn't fix it, right? So it's okay to explore that a little bit. Are you a tenacious personality? This is the person who can make a plan and stick to it. If you're highly self-directed, cooperative, and by cooperative, I mean with yourself, right? So you're the one that says, I am gonna eat this, this, and this today, and you eat that, that, and that today. You're cooperative with those things. You don't have a tendency to rebel because you're fully on board, right? You're very tenacious. You're very goal-oriented. And have a lot of stick-to-itiveness, if that's even a word. I think it is. I think you know what I mean. But if you're that kind of personality, it really might be as simple as reassessing your routine. I mean, realistically speaking, when I'm working with people and I see these different kind of personalities, or it's not even a personality, it's a tendencies. That last one, if you can identify with that as being tenacious and having a lot of stick-to-itiveness and cooperativeness, that is the one where I don't want to call it easy, but it may be just as simple as redoing your goals, right? Just thinking through, what is it that I need to change? Because you're going to stick to it likely, and you're not going to get distracted or have impulse situations or oblivious, you think about it. So any comments on which way you tend? Anybody want to share which one of those you are? You're not talking to me today. Oblivious. I can be more than one. Uptight for sure. Definitely the top three. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's very interesting. So maybe just make a note of some of the ideas there, and you can use that to frame, maybe if you're on a plateau or you want to make some changes, use it to frame how you go about it, tackling that. Impulsive and oblivious depending on the stress level. Yeah. So back on track with food. And there's a little funny, I kind of like this one too. I didn't really believe it before I began the program, but there is an actual connection between what I eat and what I weigh. And have you discovered that? I mean, if you're on a plateau, it might not make as much sense, but you probably have discovered there is an actual connection between the two, right? So these next few slides, I've titled them Getting Back on Track. And that might not even be it. It's not that you're off track, it's that you need to change tracks, that you need to change directions. So on this slide, I'm gonna tackle food, which, as we know, is the number one most important thing to tackle when it comes to weight loss, because it's the easiest way to manage how many calories are coming in. So that's what we're going to focus on for this slide. So for food, stop the creeping tide, get the measuring spoons and cups or scale back out. Even registered dietitians overestimate. Do you remember that story I told you about how they did a study about buffets? And they had regular people do it and they had registered dietitians do it. And even when they told the registered dietitians, people like me who know how many calories are in food and they know that when you have bigger plates, you take more food. Even when they told them what they are measuring, the registered dietitians who are given the bigger plates took bigger portions and underestimate how much they took. So the measuring spoons, the scale, all of that is really important just to make sure that that didn't creep a little bit, right? Since you first started. Find new places to save calories. Your taste buds have likely changed. Can you go without the full fat mayonnaise now? That's just totally an example. That was just the first thing in my head. There's tons of other things that you can do. Maybe in your latte, you can do half flavor. Maybe you can do a half portion of the sour cream on your taco. You know, it works for calories. It also works for sodium. If decreasing sodium is important to you, it works in a variety of different places. But keep in mind that your taste buds have changed and you probably have a little healthier appreciation for foods that are a little healthier. You can taste those nuances better probably at this point. So there might be places that you can tweak it just a little bit if you focus on it. And it really does make a big difference over time if you use full fat milk in your coffee as versus skim milk in your coffee, or even 1% instead of full fat. What are you eating? Your body needs nutrients to lose weight. Focus on nutrient-rich food. I worked with a gal just recently who had been focusing on kind of the keto diet, if you're familiar with that. And really, my role, as far as I see it, is to help people do what they want to do in the healthiest way possible, right? So that's what she wanted to do, is the keto diet. So I was working with her on that. She saw really good results for a while, and then she got to a plateau and she wasn't losing weight anymore, even though her calories were ridiculously low and, you know, just all of the things. So what she decided to do was change her diet and add back in some of the food groups that she hadn't been eating because she was on the keto diet. And it wasn't that she dramatically increased her calories. It was that where she changed where she was getting her calories from. So she started adding some back in some healthy things like fruit, like whole grains, that sort of thing. She started adding those things back in and she started losing weight. So it's not just about calories. You have to think about the nutrients that you're eating, because your body will get to a point where it will hang on to that weight if it's not getting the nutrients it needs to feel comfortable losing weight. So that's something for you to think about as well. Rededicate yourself to making your own food. Those quick foods, going out to eat or having prepackaged foods that you just pop in the microwave or on into the stove, those are super convenient. I know they are, but maybe try making your own food more often. And like I said, please remember, I am not telling you you have to do all of these things, right? So don't feel overwhelmed. What I'm doing is I'm throwing a bunch of ideas at you today. These are all things that I have worked with people and they have found have worked for them, but you need to figure out what it is that's going to work for you. So maybe try the one thing that resonates with you. Like if there's one or two things you get out of this whole, you know, everything I'm throwing at you that you're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, I want to try that. try that one thing, right? You can always come back and watch this presentation later and try something else if that doesn't work. So don't be overwhelmed. This is all just ideas. I don't expect you to do it all, nor should you expect yourself to. Focus on protein and fiber. Including a good source of protein every time you eat is really, really important, especially if you're someone, and I know there's a few of you who are really trying to build muscle and to get in better shape, and you have more of kind of a sports nutrition kind of bent with what you're trying to work on. Having at least 20 grams of protein in a single meal or eating period is how much your body needs in order to build muscle and to do kind of the extra things that we want it to do. So if that's something that's challenging for you, there's nothing wrong with protein powder, but I'm telling you that getting it from real food is the gold standard. But if that's something that's challenging for you, using a little bit of protein powder or something like that is probably just fine. Just be careful with the vitamins and minerals, because a lot of times they fortify those with vitamins and minerals. And if you're taking a multivitamin as well, you just don't want to be taking too much. So just be aware of that if you're going to add any kind of supplement. Try adding calories on your workout days. So sometimes just having that little pre-workout snack, and I mean little, right? Like a cup of chocolate milk as versus regular milk, a half a cup of some sort of fruit, something like that extra before your workout or right after your workout. If it's a short, maybe like a weightlifting workout, maybe right after your workout. If it's like vigorous cardio, maybe a tiny little bit of carbs before can help get you through it better. That's something that might be beneficial to your body, to give it a few extra calories. I've talked to a lot of dietitians who really don't agree with the super low calorie weight loss thing. Like it's going to work for a while, but then your body just starts holding on to it so tight. So thinking about adding calories, if that's something from really healthy sources in a really conscious way, is a really good idea, something to try, especially if you're on a plateau. If you are still losing weight, maybe you don't want to do that, right? All right, so here's some activity ideas for you. Mix it up. And super body should be in parentheses. Super body is asking for a new challenge. So if you think about your body, it kind of is like a superhero. If you think about it, have I told you that story? It's kind of like a superhero where the more you challenge it, the stronger it gets. Have you ever thought about your body that way? I mean, some of our bodies we definitely have frustrations with, and I get that. But if you're active in any way that you can be active and you do it consistently, then you're going to get stronger in the way that you can get stronger. And that's what I mean by super body. And so if there's something that you've been doing really consistently and you're not seeing the same results, then maybe you just need a new challenge. Try something different. Try including strength training 3 times a week. Again, the gold standard. If you're not doing it all, try maybe adding it once or twice if you have time. Muscles use more calories just sitting there than other types of your body. So building muscle mass is a good thing. Plus, it really helps as we age to keep our bones healthy, that kind of resistance exercise. And there's multiple other things. Those are just the first 2 things that came to mind. If you don't do strength training 3 times a week, maybe consider it. Intervals. Push the envelope a little. We've talked about intervals. There's lots of different ways to do intervals. I'm not saying you have to do it like those crazy people on TV, right? What I'm saying is that whatever it is that you do, maybe just go a little bit harder for, like 30 seconds. Just bring your heart up a little bit if you can, and then allow it to come down, and then push it back up again. So that's what I mean by intervals. This is kind of this, it's more like the hill setting on the treadmill rather than the straight and flat setting on the treadmill. Sometimes that can trigger your body to use calories for longer after your workout as well. Change the intensity. That's how hard you're working. The duration, that's how long you're working. Frequency, that's how often you're working, or mode, that's what you're doing, of exercise. So you can see in that one sentence, there's 4 different ideas, right? You multiply that by how many different types of activity there are, and you can see how many different ways it can be tweaked. So those are all things you can change just a little bit. I mean, if intervals aren't right for you, try doing it for a little bit longer. Try doing it a little harder. Try doing it a little more often, right? Try doing something different. Any of those will work. Try wearing a fitness watch, using a step tracking app, or even a pedometer. If you don't have any of those things, the pedometers are the little things that just sit on your belt, and it just counts how many steps. It's just an easy way to track your activities of daily living that we were talking about, and can help keep it in your mind that, you know, I'm trying to get to 5,000 steps today or whatever it is. So that might encourage you to get up and move around a little bit more. So this is very interesting. I liked this quote. And it's talking about motivation. And motivation is what gets you going and gives you that extra energy towards whatever it is your goal is. So it's something you go out looking for. It's not something that you wait for. And I included this link because it has some really good ideas, more so than even what I've shared today, for exercise specifically, for how to get yourself off the plateau. And I'm not going to go there today, but I encourage you, if you want to go there, it's a good read and it has really good ideas. Kyle said, I set a goal to walk 1,000 miles this year and I made it yesterday. Hey, huzzah, that's awesome. That's amazing. Great job, Kyle. And it feels so good, doesn't it? Yeah, it feels so good to achieve, to set a goal and then to achieve that goal. It feels amazing, doesn't it? Wow, good job. I love it. Yeah, amazing. Wow, so cool. It's like, I teach classes. I've told you this, and I was in class and I was sharing with them, and I know you all definitely have felt this way at some point, but you ever have that moment, like when you're all alone and you do something that you've been working really hard for, or, you know, that's been a struggle for you, and you do it. And do you ever just want to be like, did anybody see that? Did anybody see that? That was amazing. So I imagine that's probably what that felt like for you, Kyle. Like, oh, I made it to 1,000 miles. It's amazing. It's like you want to put it up on your, you know, like print yourself a plaque or something. So you can be like, yeah, I did that. That's awesome. Yeah, I need a sticker, like all those marathoners. They always put the stickers with the, you know, 26, whatever, 13.1 for half marathons. Yeah, you need to make yourself a sticker and stick it on your car. 1,000 miles. Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. Thanks for sharing that. You all are the first people I have told. I love it. Yay. That's so cool. We should have 1,000-mile club. Keep track of it. I like that idea. I'm actually gonna write it down. 1,000-mile club. And then I really would make stickers, Kyle. I think that's a great idea. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so I'm going to give you some ideas as far as healthy habits, because so often we focus on the food and the activity like I just did, and you forget that there's other things that can make more of an impact. Stress, like the stress of worrying about not losing weight, can stimulate eating and weight gain all by itself. And it can actually stop weight gain or weight loss all by itself, just the stress and the worry about that. So think about that positive self-talk. Also think about how your sleeping is, especially as we're going into these winter months. There's, you know, lots of sicknesses going around, and your body is just not able to operate at its optimal level if you're tired at all. And that includes losing weight, feeling comfortable to lose weight. So think about the sleeping. We did a whole presentation on that. Feel free to go back to it if you're like, yeah, that's my issue for sure. Go back to that presentation, maybe see if there's some ideas there to help you out, and then just get serious about it. Like, it's the most important thing in the day. Remember that recovery is just as important as activity. I talked about how to tweak your activity, but sometimes people almost push themselves too hard. They don't give themselves enough recovery, whether it's activity, whether it's meeting weight loss goals, whether it's, setting up all the Christmas decorations, whatever the thing is. But remember that that recovery is just as important as the activity, and the balance is the challenge, right? The balance is the challenge, finding the sweet spot for you. Focus on something else, especially if you are at a plateau and you're feeling very frustrated. Sometimes changing that focus can decrease the stress and get you off the plateau. A great way to decrease your own stress is to volunteer and to think about somebody else. You could join a group. You could sign up for a class. You could join a team. There's so many things to do. And that social interaction on top of everything else is really, really helpful at decreasing stress as well. Especially if you are an introvert or you're someone who hasn't been involved. There's so many options, and it's so, so good for you to do it. So really consider that. Try an activity designed to help stress and anxiety. So what activities do I mean? Things like, yoga. I got to say it, right? Yoga. Everybody says, have you tried yoga? Yeah. Yoga, meditation, walking, praying, journaling, getting up a little bit earlier in the morning and drinking tea by yourself, right? What's an activity that you do that decreases your stress? What is it for you? That's a great thing to do for healthy habits and to decrease your stress and make your body healthier as a whole. And then use what you need when you need it. And I say child's pose in the kitchen because they actually did a study on child's pose, where if you're having cravings and you're feeling like eating, if you just take a moment to do a child's pose or a down dog, you just take 30 seconds, then it can get you through that craving. So that's why I put in there child's pose in the kitchen, right? You're cooking along and you're like, oh man, I want to have a snack, but I know I'm not hungry. It's just like a craving, and you just feel it. You just feel it like taking over your head. Try a little child's pose. Just give it a little curl up, or maybe just, take a second and down dog. Maybe just sit yourself up really tall. You can do it right now if you want to. It felt really good last time too. If you just sit yourself up or stand up nice and tall, tuck in your chin, roll your shoulders back just a little bit, and take a big deep breath down into your belly, and then out through your mouth, in through your nose. One more time. Out through your mouth. Man, I just want to stay there and keep doing that. That felt really good. Even 1 or 2 breaths make a big difference, whether it's cravings, whether it's dealing with crazy people over the holidays, whether it's dealing with emotions that have run amok, either yours or someone else's. Even just a deep breath. Super simple, always there. Chill out and back off. Sounds easy, right? Give your mind and body a break. Think about eating intuitively. Are you really craving that salty snack, or might it be other nutrients that are out of whack? See what I did there? It was a little Dr. Seuss moment. Are you really craving that salty snack, or might it be other nutrients that are out of whack? I find that when I start craving sugar, it's usually that I need protein. Strangely enough, I feel better if I eat something with protein. Each person is unique, and every person responds differently. And I think that you've gotten that from me, in that I give you ideas, but I really know that you can take those ideas and apply it to your own life, your own situation, knowing your personality, knowing your journey. And I mean, in some ways it would be really nice if I could just hand you a prescription and be like, do this and it's going to fix it. But in some ways it's more satisfying if you do the thing that really resonates with you and you work for it to achieve it. Stay the course and find out how to work with your body. What is it that it responds to? And it's just like anything else. You're taking an educated guess when you try something new. So if you're on a plateau, I really hope that what you're going to get out of this is that you should try something new. So pick one thing. What's one thing I could try that I can tweak in my goals that I can try that's new? Try that thing. Educated guess, right? Many times that's not the thing. Or maybe it's a combination of things that you're going to need to do. But if you stay the course and you keep on tweaking things and thinking through it and being thoughtful, then you will find the thing that your body responds to. It just takes a time because everybody responds differently. Try adding calories if you've been faithful to a low calorie diet. I already gave that suggestion. It's something that might really be helpful because adding those calories, especially if you do it in a thoughtful way, adding them with really nutrient rich foods can make a huge difference. Like that story that I shared with you about that gal that I was working with can make a big difference. Search for your escape. You have to try the doors to know if they lead out. That's what I was just saying. Is that you need to relax and stop worrying about it so much? That might be the thing, right? So there again, redirect your thought process. Redirect your thought process. Maybe it's the volunteering, maybe it's getting out, joining a team, maybe it's doing something relaxing. Redirect that thought process. Stop worrying about it so much. Is it that you're overestimating your calories? That was something that we talked about too, and it can happen, right? So originally when you figured out how many calories you need, that may have changed, and likely it did. If your weight has gone down, that has likely changed as well. It might be just that creeping tide of not quite measuring everything like you were before and eyeballing it, and maybe it's not exactly accurate. Is it that you lost enough weight that you've closed the calorie gap by bringing down your BMI? That again is another way to say your number of calories that you need is different now than it was when you started, right? Is it just that that's just the change, you know, because as your weight goes down, you need few calories. I know, I don't want to be the bearer of bad tidings. That's actually true. Is it that your body has gotten used to your workout and you need to try something different? Is it a combination of some or all of the above or something completely different? Most likely. Yeah, most likely it's not just one of those things. It's a combination of those things. So that's why I just encourage you so much to try something, see how it works, and then try something new. And don't expect perfection from yourself. Just sometimes it's more important to take the step back. When you find that you're all in your head and you're worrying about it, take the step back. Okay, what is it I can do right now in this moment to get myself closer to my goal? And then just move forward from there. Don't panic. Number one most important rule, don't panic, right? I know, I think I'm so funny, but I just love that book. It was literally the book that I was reading in study hall when I was in high school and laughing and getting death glares from the teacher during study hall, laughing out loud in a quiet study hall room because I was reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So if you want to know what my sense of humor is like, just read that book. Some of you are going to be like, oh my gosh, it's so dumb. Some of you may be like, yeah, I know what she's talking about. But that's where don't panic comes from. What you've done in the past doesn't work. What is it that you've done in the past? Because I know the majority of you have had experiences with weight management. What has it been that you have done? Gave up, you stopped, right? You just went, you stopped doing it. That's what doesn't work. Sticking with it does work. It does. It takes more time than you're gonna like. And it's harder work than you're gonna like. But sticking with it works. This too shall pass. It will. Especially if you put in the effort to try new things and try different things and to manage how you're feeling about it in the meantime. I know, so easy to say, not so easy to do. So this month, your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to try something new, change something. What could it hurt, right? Probably nothing. Do what you've decided to do to meet your goals. If you need to print out your food and fitness log, do it. Remember, as this is the busier season and we're always busy, and this is just adding on top of it, I feel like, make the list of your must-dos and your want-to-dos and discard your should-dos. Pre-plan as much as you can during this time, especially. Pre-plan, because that can really help you navigate some of the events that are coming up. You know, if it causes you stress in any way, either just the food that's there, that's a temptation, if it's the people that's there, if it's anything else, just pre-plan, work your way, walk your way through it as if you were going to give a presentation. What would you do to, if you were going to give a presentation? You would practice, right? You would say it out loud. You would write it down. You would know your material, right? So that's what that pre-planning is. And ask for help when you need it. You know that I am here. You know that there's health coaches at the health center. You know there's tons of resources. I gave you some of those today. If you need it, ask for it. I'm here for you. And so are a lot of other people. Yay, Calvin. All right, so Hobbs is actually the focus of this one. So you can see he is chasing his tail, which we know to be an extremely, the word is escaping me, something that's really a really good way to spend your time, right? You accomplish a lot if you chase your tail. And then Calvin comes up and says, despite that amazing display of cunning, reflex, and physical prowess, your tail still has a death grip on your butt. And Hobbs says, could you stop the room, please? I'd like to get off. How many of you feel like that? Like you're just chasing your tail and you end up dizzy with nothing to show for it. It's so true. It's so true. But it's not chasing your tail. It actually will be more, it will give you more back than that. But I just thought it was kind of funny and appropriate for the presentation. So hopefully you appreciated it as well. So I'd like to wish you all happy holidays, and let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to do that. Happy to celebrate with Kyle. And thank you for the idea for the 1,000-mile club. I like that. And let me know if I can help with anything else. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.